Nate Silver's assessment and current presidential election forecast. And I want to make sure I stress this because the previous segment was talking about how Alan Lichtman, the professor who's gotten every election right except for 2000, and that was weird, but he got it wrong. He did. He's predicting Harris will win based on his keys to the presidency. I think it's called model. And because it goes against what I want to happen, he's wrong. I want Trump to win, so he's wrong. And Nate Silver says Trump's going to win, so he's right. I don't know their data points, but in all seriousness, Nate Silver is now predicting, as of today, based on current polling, Trump has a 60.1% win probability to Harris's 39.7. A massive drop off for Harris. Trump is shooting up nearly 2-1 in Nate Silver's forecast model to win. The interesting thing about this is that Politico said recently that people should ignore the forecast models and the predictions because nobody knows. And at the time he said, well, it's too close to 50-50, so it doesn't really matter. But people actually can predict this. It's just that the failed news outlets and pollsters get it wrong and then say, well, nobody knew. When he's like, actually, we can tell. Now it's 60-40. Nate Silver's saying Trump's 60% chance to win. This is wild. Nate Silver is giving Trump a very, very strong path to victory with this probability right now. He's saying that Pennsylvania is going Trump 2-1. Look at this. Chance of winning 60.8%, Harris 39.2. He's going to win Arizona. He's going to win Nevada. He's going to win North Carolina. And then he's going to win Michigan and Wisconsin in this model. That's crazy. Narrowly, Michigan and Wisconsin. Nate Silver's putting it all. It's Trump right now. So who's going to be wrong? The statistics guy analyzing all the data and making a prediction, or the professor who has a 13-point system based on opinion that he's only been wrong one time? Who do we pick? Because either way, someone's going to be wrong.
I'm siding with Nate Silver.
Me too, because I want to.
Yeah. When you actually look at the fundamentals of the race, voter registrations are up for Republicans in almost every major swing state. Mail-in ballot requests, especially for Pennsylvania, I want to say right now, I think they're down 130,000 from the same point in 2020. So every fundamental data point outside of just opinion and spin pieces is looking pretty good for Donald Trump. So and I think it's going to get even higher, Trump's chances of winning after this debate. Because people are going to realize that, Kamala Harris is kind of dim-witted, is not charismatic. And, I don't think that she's going to come anywhere close to Scranton Joe and this kind of made-up mythos about Joe Biden. I don't think I think she's going to lose Pennsylvania by a pretty good chunk.
Yeah, I think that's why the first time that they brought Joe Biden onto a campaign event was in Pennsylvania. Yeah. I mean, I always thought if they didn't pick Josh Shapiro, that was a misstep. And I think in some ways it was her campaign saying basically we don't think we can win this state, because it doesn't seem like she has a path forward without it, which is fascinating. And I think you're right. The debate will be very telling. They just, all these new reports coming out that they have agreed to do it standing with mics muted, basically the same rules that the Biden team had negotiated, even though the Harris campaign had come out and said, well, we want to be able to sit down and we want to do it this way. Yeah. Treat us exactly like the Joe Biden campaign by coming to this debate, but also give us completely new rules because we don't like them anymore.
And I think the muted mics, I think, actually helped Trump, because I think, he naturally, I think, probably reserves himself a little bit better and is not as aggressive. And he's kind of more succinct to the point. And I think that's good for him.
Well, and we got these really good moments where he would say, they would turn and be like, Mr. Trump, do you want to respond to that? And he was like, I don't know what he said, and I don't think he does either. I mean, it sort of saved him the chance to tee up really good lines when he knew the mic and cameras were on him. I think there's always a reason to be slightly skeptical of polls. Data models can be skewed, and obviously, you can get an organization that wants a certain outcome, and they're able to use the data so that they're able to get that. But I think what you're saying is that, Trump has popular support in the country, and that shows up. I was writing about Montana's Senate race today with John Tester and Tim Sheehy, and AARP, which released this report, and it underscored the fact that the majority of voters in Montana's elections in 2020 and 22 are older, and overwhelmingly older Montanans support Trump, and they also support Tim Sheehy. Montanans in general are leaning towards both Trump and the Republican candidate for Senate. But I think that this model gets ignored by mainstream media that wants to say, well, we don't know, anything could happen, and it's a lot closer than you think it is, because they don't really want to talk to average Americans. They sort of have something they're driving towards. They have a headline they want to print.
Yeah, and I also say this with the polling industry, Democrats generally have more money than Republicans in most of these races, and when candidates and parties are buying polls, they're doing it to push a narrative. So like when people say, "Oh, polling is always wrong," and it's like, well, yes and no, but who is buying a lot of these polls? Democrats or Democrat adjacent groups. So like you're naturally almost going to have kind of more of a left-wing bias in some of these polls just because they're the ones putting up all the cash.
Yeah,
so they can
it's
make the headlines and everything like that.
NBC was making a big deal out of this poll that they had released recently. They'd polled young voters, and I was listening to one of their broadcasts on it, and it seems like the next day they were sort of downplaying it because young voters had told them that their top issue was the economy, which I don't think this mainstream media outlet was expecting. I think they were expecting them to say, I don't know, abortion or, Palestine or whatever, like something, a more social issue. But the reality is young Americans are trying to establish their lives, and a huge part of that is what kind of economic decisions they have to make every day. Do they put off buying a car? Do they think they'll be able to buy a house? Do they think that they can afford groceries? It's like these are the things that are actually on the minds of young Americans, even if a Democrat campaign like the Harris campaign is basically posturing as, well, it's Brat Summer and everything's vibes.
Yeah.
I think the economic vibes are more dominant and bad.
Just pay attention to all these issues that don't really kind of affect your life in a major way. But yeah, the economy, like, what do you guys do? What are you guys talking about? But when I go back to my district and talk to constituents, talk to younger people that I represent, it's housing affordability, it's wages, it's being able to start a family. It's making sure that your kids aren't getting indoctrinated in the school system, and all these things are like materially declining over the last 4 years, and largely over the course of our entire generation, our entire life.
Mm-hmm. I don't think Harris looks like she's going to turn the tables on any of this.
Yeah.
I don't know how she could win support without getting better messaging on the economic issue. That's why they try to distract with things like abortion or marijuana or whatever.
She calls herself the underdog. I mean, I wonder if they're realizing that the media spin narratives, they aren't going to help. But I have been hearing that there are a lot in the area around us in Virginia, a lot of Harris signs.
I've been seeing a lot of Harris signs too, and especially in
Are they Harris Walz sign? Because I walked past
Harris Walz sign.
Okay, I walked past this one and realized that it was a Biden Harris sign, and they had just cut Biden off of it. So it's just like a yard sign thing, which I thought was pretty symbolic here.
It's expensive to buy those.
And also, they were just telling me they're always going to vote Democrat. Like they don't care about, especially West Virginia is a dominantly Republican state. I can assume if you're an out and proud Democratic voter, maybe you're just trying to say we are the resistance, and you can't make us vote for anyone but someone who has a Democrat.
To vote the other day in West Virginia.
You did?
Yeah,
that's great.
This will be the first time I have ever in my life not voted in New York. So.
Welcome.
That's pretty wild. And I even asked, I was like, do we have to show voter ID? And she's like, yep, and here's your voter ID card. And I was like, okay, I will put this in my wallet.
Early voting starts in Pennsylvania in 11 days. It's September 16th.
North Carolina's coming up too.
Mm-hmm. Wow, when in 7 days?
Pennsylvania is September 16th, 11 days.
Wow. And the 18th is Trump prison day.
Yep. That's Trump prison day. We'll see what happens. I think could they just haul him off to prison? Could they just be like,
yes.
You're going to...
What if he gets put on house arrest and has to hang out with Barron in their New York City apartment?
Right. I was talking to somebody...
That's where Barron's living while he goes to NYU.
About where they'd put him. They wouldn't put him in Rikers. They'd put him in Manhattan County Correctional.
Prediction is that they're going to put him in Rikers.
Well, but they couldn't put him in Rikers. They'd have to put him in MCC, which is right around the corner.
They would have to, you said?
Well, I forget who I was talking to, and I don't think he was talking on the record, so I think it's perfectly fine that I totally forgot. But
conveniently,
I was talking to this lawyer, New York lawyer, who was saying that they wouldn't put him in Rikers, they'd put him in MCC, which is around the corner from where he was tried, anyway, downtown, on Pearl Street, and that's where they put Epstein.
Oh, yeah. Wasn't this a guest on the show?
Right.
We thought y'all had this conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Then it wasn't. I'm mixing everything up.
Exclusive off the record
couple of weeks. No idea what's going on. But yeah. Yeah, it was an exclusive off the record. I was like imagining. What's funny is I was imagining like sort of intimate conversation with me and this person and other people, and it was. It was
just live to a lot of people in this room.
Because this always feels like sort of an intimate conversation. That's funny.
What do you think's going to happen to Trump? Do you have a prediction?
I honestly, I haven't really thought a ton about it, just because I'm like, it's just so out of my control.
Do you think that's how a lot of Americans are feeling? Like we think about it a lot because we cover the news.
Yeah.
But a lot of Americans, the trial and stuff has sort of faded to the background for them.
Yeah, because it's just, we almost live in like a hyper news cycle where it's like, it's just story after story, every day, every couple days. I think everything that's being done to him is a total injustice, but yeah, I honestly, I think they probably will put him in jail just to spite him. But yeah, I know, watching just some videos and reading some articles, that the Secret Service haven't actually made plans on like how they would even protect him.
They were talking about it though months ago. They were saying that the Secret Service had considered it.
Yeah,
that was like leaked somewhere.
I thought it was like that it was leaked that they hadn't made any definite plans.
Right,
They were still waiting to see, but they were waiting to see kind of where he ends up, or if he even goes to jail. But
And right now, I feel like the Secret Service has the reputation for being unprepared.
Yeah.
Maybe giving things a chance. Not to be mean to all Secret Service agents, but just to reflect on this summer. When you're in your district, do people talk about the lawfare against Trump very much? How much does Trump come up day to day for you?
Actually, yeah, quite a bit. Most of it is just, do you support Trump? Like when I'm out door knocking, when I'm out talking to people, most Republicans are like, are you MAGA? Or are you, Trump aligned? And it's like, yes, it's part of the reason why I even got involved in politics. And most people are like, all right, well, I'm voting for you. So, that's definitely a big question, because people, especially Republicans, are so used to getting backstabbed that, they want to know, like, what's your position on Trump? Like, what do you think about the guy? Because most of these people, a lot of them are, Trump voters. Like, they're going to show for Trump, and they'll probably vote for other Republicans, but their main reason to going out to vote
is Trump.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's true. It's interesting how much of a draw to the polls he is, and I think the lawfare against him actually might motivate more people this year than ever.
Definitely. Yeah.
I mean, I think people feel like this is the last shot and a lot is at stake, but they also feel in some ways a deep loyalty to Trump, that it's worth the time and effort to go out and vote for him. I don't think people felt that way about Joe Biden. I really don't think they feel that way about Kamala Harris.
Yeah. I don't think so either. I think it would be hard. You'd be hard pressed to really be driven to go out and, vote for Kamala Harris, because you even saw after the DNC, there were a lot of Democrat activists and stuff coming out on their TikToks and talking about how they were not particularly inspired by this overwhelming joy and euphoria, and that they really wanted some answers as to what Kamala Harris was promising to do other than just be not Trump, which frankly isn't good enough. And I'm really curious to see what happens next Tuesday on the debate stage in Philadelphia.
Because you look at the Harris campaign so far, there really hasn't been a whole lot of substance.
Have they even put up any policies yet?
Still no policies on the platform.
Wow.
And every time,
so they affect no major change.
Nothing.
So that Lichtman thing is ridiculous.
And every time she does come out with a policy proposal, it's either like widely blasted by people on her own side, or stolen from Trump. So that's pretty wild. And then the California Democrats came out and opposed a GOP measure to not tax tips. So
she's not even aligned with the state that at one point she claimed to represent.
You kind of start thinking that maybe she's lying too, on top of everything else.
And her whole policy of supporting, no tax on tips, it's totally because she realizes that Trump is totally on the money, totally over the target on that. And she's like, oh, well, I need to copy that so I can take that away from him, because that is a popular issue and that can something that could be done. But
yeah, it's to neutralize the advantage that he
yeah.
has. Thanks for watching this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to check out the live show Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. on this channel. Subscribe and we'll see you all there.